In this last video, let's take a look at how we can construct this front face being in an arc. And the tricky thing will be that we also have to arc those edges of the top surface that already is bent. But it's actually not really complicated. So I'm going to create myself two diagonals, because this way I can find my midpoint here. That one I really need. And from the vanishing point, I'm going to define maybe how far, for example, those faces should arc in. And then from the right vanishing point, okay, and then unfortunately again I have to use the not so effective pen tool to draw something in 2-point perspective. But let's say this is roughly plus minus the orientation I want. And so that the lines are going to be a little bit easier to read, let me make those thinner. Okay. Now I have kind of like this line here being slightly arced. But how do I now take this surface and, for example, project it up? Might actually sound complicated. But again, we can make use of our construction planes. So first, let's do the same also on the other side. No, actually, let's scratch that one. Let's work on the front part. So this distance, for example, I would like to figure out where this distance is here, but because this surface is rotated, I can't just draw a line straight up. However, I know that this point is actually, same like with this point, lying on this surface. So what I can do is, for example, this. So from here I draw a line down till it hits there, and then from the vanishing point I create another line till it hits that one, like this. So the reason why I did this was, with this point going a line straight down, I figured out this distance, which is this distance. And then with this vanishing line, maybe let me zoom in a little bit, I figured out this distance. So for example, here, now I can make a line straight down, and there's the point. So this point I have there. This point I go up, I have here. So you see my midpoint, and here's actually one of my endpoints. Now let's take a look again at the example there. So from here, I draw a line straight down till it hits this line, because again, this is a construction plane. And then from this point to the vanishing point, there, it hits the line there. So I know from there, going straight up, there is this. Because technically speaking, here you see there are actually my sloped lines. So now maybe those lines make a little bit more sense. And with all this stuff done, all I need to do is, you guessed it, put in the missing arc. And for example, here you see, this is actually going to be an interesting case based on the way how I decided this rotation or how far this arc bends. And this one nearly turns out to be straight. And actually, it could actually be right. Don't be confused sometimes. What you draw quite often can be correct. And what you think how it should look like does not necessarily mean that that's the way it has to look. So there, now you saw I adjusted some of those line colors or thicknesses so it pops out better. See there, it really nearly turns out actually into a line. Those 3 points are really nearly on a ray. So on the back side, I think actually it will be a lot easier to see. So let's try to mirror the stuff over. So I would like to bring these points over. Let's see. Vanishing point there. No. And line there. Okay. Copy and paste. Till you hit this line. See there, now I see this point cuts my midsection, my diagonal there. So I know based on perspective rules, now I can take this line, move it to there, and it should be roughly there. Perfect. Okay. Now I have my start, mid, and end point. So let's put those lines down. Maybe like this. Perfect. There now you see the ground profile much nicer, and now we have to try to project those lines up. I know already that simply from there I can draw a straight line up. So for example, where it cuts there is this point, and there is this point. Here's my midpoint. Let's go up. So 1, 2, 3. So again, place those points. Maybe stretch them out a little bit so it feels like it has the correct flow. And there, you see, it starts taking shape. Now a little bit of cleanup. This line, for example, goes to there. This line goes to there. This to there, and this to there. This line goes to there, to there, to there, to there, to there, and to there. And let's delete all this stuff. So drawing will be a little bit easier to read. Oops. And there we are. you see now, actually, this way we constructed the sides being bent, the top being bent, and actually those corners being somewhat accurate. And again, the problem properly here is based on the view I have. Unfortunately, I created a look where this arc is so minimal that actually it really starts, or chances are high that it really can start looking flat. Now, if, for example, we also want for this side also to arc inwards, again, easy peasy, midpoint, midpoint, maybe some diagonals. Technically speaking, this should be a nice rectangle. And something is off here. Not sure yet what maybe I did there, but this point does not look accurate. Let's see. No, actually, it runs through nearly the midpoint there. So maybe, this is actually okay. The reason why I did this was, for example, this line. Along this midsection, I arc in a little bit. Dang. So there you see now, this is bent a little bit. And if I calculate the correct rotation degree, let's say, trying to speed this up right now, but let's say this is actually that. Then, for example, also here, this arc, for example, would move in a little bit. Then, of course, I mirror this over to there, mirror the same point over to there. So you see, along those lines, I'm going to move everything. And then this line, which already was slightly sloped, will slope even a little bit more. And here, this one goes maybe a little bit, let's say till there. There. Yeah, something must be off here. I think that thing should be more looking like something like this, actually. I don't know, maybe I got confused by some of my lines. So chances are high, the more lines you start putting in, that maybe something might get off or you get confused by something. But yeah, so I hope this, at least the process, was very informative. And you see again, as I said already very often, your best friends are going to be square, cube, construction plane, and your diagonals and midlines. And from this point, then you should be able to, for example, project those. Hold on, this is too confusing. Project those blue lines down by using the side profile, so you understand how far, for example, these points always have to go down. Because again, try to think about here, you have your profile lying on this plane, and you just need to push the left and the right points down, and then you hit, for example, this arc. So, for example, what I mean is, let's show this cube. Okay, and I think I want to show my vanishing points there. Let's bring down a line there. And this is not going to match 100% because I deleted my other curves before, but you see, this is, let's say, your site profile. So from a vanishing point to, for example, this edge coming down, and then from there to the vanishing point, I create another line, and there you see, hey, this goes down. Hey, this goes down. This to the vanishing point. For example, let's say this line is correct, but there now we have this arc. So same, for example, applies to there. So if this comes from the vanishing point to the boundary of my cube, to go down till it hits this arc, and then again to the vanishing point, and then there, for example, I can see how far now I have to move those corner points down. And there. And hold on, let me delete this one, and this one, this one, and this one, and diagonal and diagonal, vertical up, and then to the vanishing point. Okay, so the reason why I did this was simply so I can find really the correct midpoint. And here I have another construction plane, and there I can put in another 2-point arc, 3-point arc. So number 1, number 2, number 3. And I think the degree, of course, I selected seems to be too big, so it should be more, maybe something like there. And then I push this one out, and yeah, let's see how this will look when I remove this and this. And for example, this line would be then somewhere down there. And then those also will bend exactly the same way. Okay, that was basically everything that's really there to know for progressing with the next coming project. And again, you will see there's actually a lot of repetition. You just have to be really, I can't stress this enough, work with profiles, really map your objects out, be really precise. And then honestly, at that point, you will start getting a really good feeling for how to transfer different details from 2D into 3D, and then also how the stuff, for example, has to look.